By the way, I have to laud everyone's professionalism this whole weekend. We have stayed on time almost perfectly. You are all such wonderful professionals. And so with that, I would like to introduce the last speaker of Saturday afternoon, Manovich from here in New York at the City University of New York. And the title of his talk is Artificial Aesthetics, Understanding Images in the Generative AI Era. Welcome.
Sorry, which microphone? This microphone, right? Great. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for. Thank you so much for inviting me to your wonderful society. I'm sorry I haven't been here throughout all the days, but as you know, this exceptional warm LA-like days in New York are not going to last forever. So I had to, embrace this nature. Freakishness and balance that we've been here, but I was here last night. I really enjoyed everything. I enjoyed Lan's wonderful talk. I enjoyed the fact that this is one-track conference. I will never go to multi-track conference again, where there are 10 presenters on stage and 2 people in the audience, and you wonder, why didn't you go to business school when you had a chance? We've all been there. This is wonderful. I have to say, I don't know if you're great or completely crazy because it's so beautiful outside. So I was expecting to come here and see nobody, but I'm glad you're here. And in this strange Players Club, here we are, like an island of geniuses or island of fools, I'm not sure, but the island of people who are still interested to ask questions, to debate, to have humor, to make fun of each other. And thank you for inviting me on your wonderful Noah Ark. Because when we're open TV these days, or open social media, I don't know about you, but I feel that I'm on a different planet. So at least a few hours I've been here, I felt I did. It was a good thing I didn't go to business school, not like I was going to. So meanwhile, my presentation will be my kind of formal presentation, very short. But then I will say some things, but to keep up your extra professional style of the conference, I may finish early, which will be amazing. And I'm sorry I'm going to read the text, which normally I don't do. And I will do something which you all hate when people do it, and I hate when people do it, but I'm going to do it anyway, which you could read text from my phone. And what it is, it's a bit different from what is in the program, because it's short. I actually been working on it for a couple of months, because it's in the form of manifesto. As some of you know, I'm open, not closet, but open modernist. I like the idea of avant-garde manifesto. So as many of my colleagues have been using visual AI tools for the last year and a half. Some people generated hundreds of thousands of images, because this is the nature of this new medium. I have only generated 16,000 images between last July and this September. And also I've been publishing my ideas on social media and then put them together into the chapters of a book called Artificial Aesthetics. The book is available on academia.edu and on my website, because I can't wait to write for years until if I make it as an academic publishing book, because by the time the book will come out, the AI will change. So this hasn't been published in the book yet, but it was on social media, as I said, in the form of manifesto. So don't take what I'm going to say completely seriously. It is exaggerated. Think of me as one of those crazy people over portraits here, right? I always hated this idea of performative academy, but think of me as a bad actor. So manifesto, anyway, enough. So manifesto is called, as I said, it's a bit exaggerated, but I think the spirit, what I'm going to say, there is something interesting there. It's called A Letter to a Young Artist. or how to survive in the age of generative media. The key difference between me, human, and generative AI is the following. I am limited, but AI is unlimited. Yes, of course, it has significant limits now. Yes, of course, every time you try to write your next article with ChatGPT, you're surprised at how stupid it is. But this is temporary limitations, we understand that. It advances fast, and what it can already do today is beyond what we could have imagined a year ago. Just remember that ChatGPT only came out in November of last year, so it's been only 11 months. During this 11 or 12 months, we now have ChatGPT, DALL-E 3, AI, which is a part of Bing, AI, which is generative AI, which is now built into Google search. You can go to Google search, go to the labs, enable it, and when you search for anything, in addition to search results, it will give you a pretty nice generated text summary in the beginning. So it's basically now competing with search. AI in Photoshop, Midjourney version 5, and the list goes on and on. So instead of dwelling, like the academics like to complain, right? Sometimes I think people that have professional, but particular psychological type, right? People who are happy become scientists. People who are kind of psychologically unhappy become humanists. But forget about it, right? So first, if you really want to understand where we're going, stop complaining. And I'm telling it to myself, right? So instead of dwelling and like suffocating and kind of enjoying, pointing out, I can do this, I can do that, this is nonsense. Instead of dwelling on what AI can do at a particular moment, it's safer to assume that it can, and if this can, will only multiply. Because of how human skills, learning, and memory works, I have limitations. I can't draw in the hundreds of styles of other artists or effortlessly combine them together, right? It would take me millions of lifetimes to make even all the portraits in this room, and they could be much, much inferior. But AI can do that. I don't have knowledge of immense, to quote, right, famous expression of André Malraux, museum about walls, distributed over the web, and museum databases. But AI does, and it will only get better. I can't simply sit down and start writing summaries of numerous topics in the history of culture. But AI, not perfectly yet, but it can. I can't instantly make hours of music with mixes of languages of different composers and map them into new instruments. AI can. I can't, but AI can. This is my kind of refrain of my song. This is my chorus, and endless other examples can be added. So then the question I want to ask myself, and even though this is kind of in the genre of a letter to a young artist, it's also a letter for myself. I was originally some, but not everybody trained in art. I started my art training at the age of 13 when I was still living in Moscow. Classical, later I got classical art training. So now I'm 63, so I've been practicing artists for 50 years. Yes, I chose to do theory just because I hated to be in the hands of curators, art dealers, and kind of not very educated people in the art world. So I'm basically using academy as my art medium, and I'm using theory instead of making paintings, but basically I'm an artist, who in a way is less interested to make works of art and more interested to keep asking this question, why to make art now? So why make art now, once again? And what art will be still meaningful to make? So I'm going to offer you one possible answer. I'm not sure this answer makes any sense. I'm not sure it's the best answer, but this is what came out when I was working with Manifesto, so let me try. So what is interesting, perhaps, about human art now is our limits and our obsessions, our inability to instantly think and paint exactly like any one of the millions of artists who lived. Our inability to quickly change. I am with Manovich, and even if I hate it, I can't walk out onto the street and become somebody else. I simply can't. Right? The way I walk, the way I talk, my habits, my constraints. This is what makes me human as opposed to AI, which doesn't have its constraints. Later will continue to evolve at the speed of technological evolution now, because of open source, because the scientists, right, are sharing their databases and papers, because we publish a paper, and in contrast to humanities, where people are still obsessed about controlling knowledge in little journals, right? The scientists publish a good paper, and a year later it's been quoted like 80,000 times, right? This is why AI is developing so fast, because of open source. Anyway, so the later will only continue to evolve, but human evolution doesn't work on the same scale. Now, note two very important notes. This is not about simulating my idiosyncrasies and thus making AI quote-unquote more human. So there is, for example, a group of scientists a few years ago, we made this like humanoid, this like robot who looks like humanoid, looks ridiculous, very banal, because that's what artists kind of do. We make banal cultural things, like looks like painter, and it's like this robot paints. So yes, you can kind of bring AI down to the level of human, right? But it's I think wrong way to go. Right? Yes, we can make AI more human, but this is I think not interesting. This is like taking Boeing 777, right, around the corner to buy some milk and some bread. This is what it means to make art with AI. It's a completely ridiculous idea, because it's like making art with superhuman gods. Right? It's forcing superhumans to act like humans, and this is banal and good strategy. And there is another crucial point to make. People say, okay, Lev, but AI doesn't really understand what it's doing. It only learned associations between words, right? It only basically just learned, correlations, right? It doesn't really know. What makes art human is our intentions, our meanings, our sort of, etc., our semantics, right, etc. Yes or no? Go back 100 years ago. Think about Dadaism, Surrealism. Think about abstract art. Think about Jackson Pollock and everybody. For over 100 years, what modern artists were trying to do is, in fact, to take human out of the equation. Right? You have suprematism, where these abstract paintings of Manovich, Korzybski, Popov, and so on don't operate within a kind of human coordinates, right, of up and down, the ground and the sky, right? It's really kind of some non-human outer space. Right? Again, think about Dadaism, think about Surrealism, think about automatic writing. So the whole idea of modern art was to refuse conventional semantics, right? It was to refuse conventional bourgeois narratives, stories, and meanings. And this is why it's so easy to make modernist art with AI, because when AI gets confused, it just looks like good modernist art. I see you, I still not got it. So for over 100 years, modern artists did their best to remove all this from their art making. And today, if you give AI direction, it can perfectly simulate ideas, plans, and meanings, so this is not relevant. So perhaps what is relevant, right, is not to try to compete with AI, because it's like competing with gods, but in fact celebrating our weakness. The only relevant thing is our limitations, our ability to compete with superhuman, our inability to compete with the web, with search engine, because search engine was already a certain superhuman moment 20 years ago, right? Because it can go on the web and kind of rank billions of pages. Yes, of course, typically it will tell you that the best page is Wikipedia, but in principle it can do it. If humans didn't create Wikipedia, then the search engine would really show its full capacities. With recommendation engines, with huge databases, with machine learning algorithms, with generative AI, and other superhuman computer technologies to come. Therefore, I want to be bold as a closing speaker and challenge people who want to humanize AI to say, you know what, this idea of human artists making art with AI tools, people constantly write about it. We're making art with AI tools. We're going to be photographers with AI tools. AI is going to make us better. AI will lead to more jobs. AI will lead to unemployment. But ultimately, AI will make us more creative. It's nonsense.
Right. That's right.
You want to, but why right?
Tell me.
Because, well, I'm telling you, because why? Because basically to say that I'm going to make art with a tool, it's like basically the same thing to say I'm going to collaborate with God. Okay, God is just going to wipe you out. That's my point, right? Not because you are better than AI, because AI is billion times better than you. So that's why you can't collaborate with it. Because it's already so much better, right? That's my point. You want immortal collaborating with Apollo, Athena, Hermes, Zeus? No way. Instead, nurture your limitations, nurture your weaknesses. Be extremely limited, not unlimited. Don't be creative, right? Go back to 100 years ago, because before the idea of creativity took over, right? I mean, humans created this amazing culture for thousands of years. You see this culture in the museum. And yet, we didn't have this idea of creative, right? I mean, ancient Greeks, ancient Mesopotamians, ancient Chinese, we didn't have this idea of creativity. We didn't have the idea of innovation. And yet, they created best art possible. Okay, only for 200 years, this idea of creativity and innovation was guiding our culture, so maybe we don't need this anymore. So forget the meaningless idea that AI can help us expand our creativity. Instead, work with constraints once you already have, or ones you can make on purpose. White on white, black on black. Do you know that after Manovich made his famous kind of like black square, he also made white square, and then what people don't know is between 1970 and 1921, he was actually exhibiting pure canvases. He kind of went the next step, and then after that he stopped painting, he was simply doing lectures for 20 years. Instead of vast surface of endless possibilities, concentrate on a single area and go as deeply as possible. Think like Morandi, Rao, and Picasso, minimalism, Rao, postmodernism, because AI is already super postmodern, you can't compete with this. Make a tiny hole in the vast surface of everything that was already created, and everything which is still possible, and keep digging. When you get completely tired digging meters of wrong underground paths, when your hands get dirty, when you get lost, it means you're close to something. Keep digging. Because AI is so vast and endless and so ruthless in its knowledge and skills, you need to work on a micro scale. Very narrow, so narrow that perhaps AI can't get there, from a needle eye. The artists need to become a mole, according to this one possible manifesto, among many others, second right, and you need to be constantly stressed and worried, because AI can discover your hole at any time, and in an instant, destroy the underground pathways you have spent years making. But perhaps the stress, this anxiety, this endless worry is the right motivation for making something original, authentic at the end. Making your art in secret, knowing that you can be discovered in a race tomorrow by AI progress. And maybe the same thing would also go for academic writing, although my manifesto is not about it. And at the end, I have wrote about it, and when I was writing it, I thought, I read somewhere this image of this kind of underground mole, right, making paths. It sounds familiar. I'm sure just as AI can, right, constantly takes things out of this network, I'm kind of AI, right? Like, I was exposed to all this knowledge throughout my life, and sometimes I can put together these things in an original manner, but I've read it somewhere and realized, yes, of course, what I'm referring to is Unfinished Story by Kafka. So let me finish by quoting this beautiful story. So it's a story he didn't finish because he passed away. It was called The Burrow. And this is the translation from Kafka. I have completed the construction of my burrow, and it seems to be successful. The most beautiful thing about my burrow is the stillness. Of course, it's deceptive. At any moment, it may be shattered, and then it will be all over. For the time being, however, the silence is with me. Thank you so much.